After a crucial win in Nevada, Democrats have officially maintained their Senate majority in this year's midterm elections.
Now, the size of that majority will be determined by the state of Georgia. Neither Republican candidate Herschel Walker nor Democratic candidate Raphael Warnock were able to garner at least 50% of the vote in their Senate race, triggering a runoff election. So Georgia's second in less than 2 years. Let's bring in ABC senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami with the latest from Atlanta, Georgia. Steve, I know the commercials were already raging there leading up to the election. Now you've got 4 weeks leading up to this runoff. Tell me what the mood's like there, what you're seeing, what you're hearing.
Well, I think that people are anxious to vote. People are anxious to vote. They're hoping that early voting can start earlier than some counties are preparing for. I have to tell you, this is going to be a different runoff. Historically, runoffs favor the Republicans in Georgia. Republicans have long won runoffs. The big notable exception was the presidential election of 2020, where in January, that runoff was in January, both Democrats won. But that was an entirely different race. The vote was largely mail-in. The control of the Senate was being decided by that election. Democrats were able to get their people out to vote, which is the big issue here. Who can get their people to come out and vote? This time, the runoff is now 3 weeks from tomorrow. The law was changed after that big Democratic victory. It sped up the process. The early voting now has to start no later than November 28th. That is essentially the Monday after Thanksgiving. One other thing, though, Amy, is college football. That is playing into this. Herschel Walker, as we know, is a former UGA football star. And I've been trying to explain it to people, Amy, and you can help me with this, how big college football is here. The Georgia Bulldogs are ranked #1, and that sunshine extends over to Herschel Walker and his team as they make their campaign and make his sort of arguments known and put his name out there and try to get their voters to come to the polls.
Oh, I was fully expecting Robach to jump in and give a dog, what is that thing? A bark.
Go dog, sick 'em.
There it is. Okay. I was waiting on that, so sorry for my delay there, Steve-O. But you talked about other indicators. You talked about how the last runoff favored the Democrats, but historically it's favored the Republicans. All right, a lot of things to factor in, but how do the numbers factor in? Warnock got 49.4%, 48.5% for Herschel Walker. Does that tell us anything about how this runoff could go?
Well, it kind of tells you that Warnock potentially has what you might consider a larger pool of voters, a larger pool of votes. He walked away from election night with the most votes of the three candidates. That's without question. But again, that's not necessarily indicative that he will win this, because historically here in Georgia, Democrats are harder to get to the polls in a runoff election. So what that means is while he may have more votes heading into this election, he still has to get his people out to vote for him. And Warnock is going to do the same. And so the other thing I'd also say is that in Georgia, the demographics have changed a little bit. The demographics favor the Democrats. If you look at what happened 4 years ago and you look at what's happened with the population shift, about 50,000 people have moved to the Atlanta metro area each year since the 2018 election, and 50,000 each year since 2020. Those are blue counties. Those are counties that are friendly to Warnock. But again, it's about get out the vote. Who can get their people out to vote? And I'll say this, TJ, that one of the things I've seen over my many years here, I've lived here now for 25 years, is that with Democrats, it takes an emergency to get voters out to the polls, whereas Republicans are a little bit more consistent. I think that now that Nevada has called this a little bit for control of the Senate, it's going to be just a little bit harder for Warnock to get his team out to play.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so many factors.
The urgency isn't there anymore, to possibly for some. And plus, if the Georgia Bulldogs, if they lose a game, what's going to, I mean, wow. I mean, we got, Steve-O, we got a lot to factor into. Who would you think they would
lose to? Kentucky?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh, my good. All right, Steve-O, ABC senior national correspondent. See what you done started, man. We appreciate you as always, my man. We'll talk to you soon for sure.
Thank you, Steve.
You're very welcome.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here. to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.